Hey there, beautiful soul. I'm V. Welcome to Nurturing Faith. This is your space to grow, heal, and draw closer to God. One verse, one testimony, one prayer at a time. I have really debated whether or not to record and post this for several reasons. You see an avatar, but behind this is a real woman with a real life, with real obstacles and challenges. I realized that I need to post this because I cannot encourage you to nurture your faith, to build your faith, and not share moments where I too have to nurture and build my faith. So I'm going to let you in. This is my testimony. About a year ago, I felt the pull to quit my 9 to 5. It was something that had been on my mind for about 6 months, and I was behind doing it. I felt like God was telling me to leave, and I kept trying to negotiate. Sometimes we do that. And I couldn't negotiate any farther. So I went ahead and I quit without a safety net, without a backup. Something that is completely unlike me. I always have a backup plan, sometimes two. But I didn't this time. I felt like this was my chance. This was my opportunity to bet on God and bet on myself. I was doing this as an act of faith. And initially, I was excited. I was like, okay, God, I know this is what you're telling me to do. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to trust you. And I'm going to trust that everything goes well. And everything did go well for a good while. I had some savings, so that's how I was able to pay my bills and handle any expenses that popped up. And everything was okay. I was still trying to navigate exactly which direction God wanted me to go in, with entrepreneurship, but I was still working on things. I wasn't sitting idly. And months passed and savings dry up and no income is being made. And I noticed that my faith started to waver because initially I knew this is what he said. But then when the resources dried up, I wasn't so sure anymore. So I did what I knew to do. I started crying and praying and asking God repeatedly for help. What do I do? Did I miss something? Did I misstep? Did I misunderstand you? I asked questions after questions after questions. And the answers I received were always reassuring. I hadn't done anything wrong. I hadn't misunderstood. And my circumstances still didn't change. It's a very interesting space to be in when you are certain that you're doing what is asked of you by God, but things aren't looking the way you anticipated them looking. Don't get me wrong. Things are not the worst they could possibly be, and for that I'm grateful. They are challenging though. And I do have moments where my faith is really tested. I do realize that things could be worse. Even still, I understand that my focus has got to be on God, because if not, I will lose my mind. I have to consistently and constantly pray. I have to stay in my word. I have to, because if I do not, I find myself in spaces where I am not mentally capable of functioning, and I do not have the emotional capacity to deal with anything outside of myself. So, in order to prevent that, I lean in instead of just sitting and crying and sulking and the things I do not have. I lean into God, remembering the things that I do have. And that's difficult. It's easier said than done, especially when you observe people around you walking into blessings that you have prayed for decades. After decades, you have prayed for certain things, and you see people seem to just fall right into those blessings. But I am reminded often that things are not always as they seem. Although it appears that these people are walking into the blessings that I want, it doesn't mean that they receive them in the right way, in the right timing, or with the right posture. And so I try not to focus so much on what I see others achieving or receiving, and focus on what God is doing in me and in my life. Does this mean that I have reached the end of this trial, that I have reached an outcome that is, remotely suitable in my eyes? No, I have not. I am still in the midst of this test of faith, this faith exercise. I am still in a space where I do not have an income. I'm still in a space where I am fully relying on God to provide. And that is a scary space to be in when you're used to having a regular every 2 week payroll. It's a very foreign space to be in. I will say that throughout all of this, I have changed. My faith level has changed. My responses to trials have changed. My relationship with God has changed in a way that it is more fortified. It is stronger in my belief than it has ever been. I have gotten to know God in new ways, ways that I've read about, but not necessarily experienced to this magnitude. So, with those things in mind, I'm grateful to be going through this. I'm not going to lie to you. I will be glad when income is steady, when resources are flowing. But it will never alter or downplay the lessons that I have received throughout this process. The last 11 months of my life have really been what I call my Proverbs 3 and 5 moment. Because everything is so uncertain, I have really had to trust in the Lord with all my heart and not rely on my own understanding or insight. And these lessons that I have accumulated have forever changed me. If you would allow me to offer you some encouragement, it would be to remember who God is when you go through things in life. No matter how challenging these things may be, no matter how difficult times get, remember who He is. Remember the promises He's made to you. Remember His attributes and truly lean into Him with everything that you have. I think that is really the only way to make trials easier, to make them a little more bearable. And make sure to arm yourself with the word so that you can know who God is. You can know His attributes. You can know His promises. You can know the benefits you have of being His child. That would be my encouragement. Always lean into Him, because regardless of how life appears, He never fails. Thanks so much for watching, beautiful soul. I hope you found today's message helpful. If it blessed you, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share with someone else who could use a little faith today. Stay rooted, stay encouraged, and keep nurturing your faith, one day at a time. Until next time, bye-bye.